governor, what is the first thing that you would do to stimulate our economy, get people back to work, and make this state prosperous without the dependence on federal aid?
We have a lot of businesses that have gone out of business. We can't do anything about those, but those that want to come in and work, I believe that we should give them some tax credits, so that tax incentives, so that they could go to work. And then we should also encourage all of the trades, because there's a lot of kids out there that are not going to go to college. I know, I taught school, and I know that they're not going to go. I think that we should encourage them to do the very best that they can. I believe also that we should stimulate our oil and gas, or keep it going, because I believe it keeps schools going, police going, health and welfare going. So I think it's very, very important that we do not shut down the very things that we have here. We also have very, very many things, like we have cattle. We should not forget our farmers and ranchers. I'm a farm girl. I know what that's like. We should encourage our farmers and ranchers. We have about 1 million head of cattle, and then we also have great dairies, and that produce the greatest wealth of dairies, the greatest milk. We also have, we're like number 6 producer of cheese. People don't even realize those great things we have. We are like the number 3 producer of oil in New Mexico, and number 8 in the entire nation. Pecans are up there too, and of course our staple chili. We should promote those things that we do best. I think that we should take away tax credits from those that are trying to make us socialist America, which, like the Hollywood elites. So I believe that what we should do is incentivize those that are already producing the greatest wealth in our state. And that is not those that are here to take it from us, because trust me, when they come here and take it, they don't spend it here. And those that are working here produce wealth in New Mexico, and it stays here, and it produces jobs here. So we need to incentivize those that are already making the money, and we should give them the very best.
Economy is very important to me. I grew up in a household with 1 wage earner, my father, and 4 brothers and 2 sisters. So we started work at a very young age. My first memory of work was 4 years old, reaching on top of the church table that we had in the garage to hold the bird down after my dad had beheaded it. We hunted for our food. I grew up in Bismarck, North Dakota. We hunted for food: pheasant, upland game, grouse, mallard, deer when deer season was on. You kill it, you clean it. That was my family. We had 2 freezers in the basement, but I was recruited by my dad because I had small hands at 4 years old. Hold that bird down, reach up inside that bird, and take out all the good stuff. And boy, that memory of that smell has stayed with me for 74 years. But the economy here in New Mexico, we lost close to 50% of our small businesses under the current administration. They're in dire need. The system they have set up now, people have put in applications, they're not getting listened to. I've proposed state loans for micro, small businesses to start, small loans for entrepreneurs, equity loans for mid and large-sized businesses so they can recover, expand, or grow. That would be part of my agenda as your next governor. Thank you.
Well, listen, we've done this in Sandoval County by stimulating the economy. Since my election, when we as conservatives took over the county commission in Sandoval County, we were able to reduce unemployment by 1/3 in Sandoval County. I am the guy who passed right to work for the first time in history in Sandoval County. We got it done in 10 counties. That's what we need to do in New Mexico to compete with our neighboring states, is right to work. We got to get rid of, don't clap because you're stopping my time. We got to get rid of GRT. It is the stupidest thing that we can do to penalize small business. Dumbest thing. I will not support, as governor, subsidies to spaceport where it costs $250 million to launch a billionaire into space, who, by the way, never made it into space, and just violated FAA safety rules, and he's grounded. We are getting just killed on subsidies. Same thing with the movie industry. I will not support the movie industry subsidies when we're losing over 50 cents on the dollar. We also have to look at putting money back into people's pockets by not taxing our Social Security seniors. That has to go. We have to take a look at the rules and regulations up in Santa Fe, and I have a small business task force, part of my platform, to go in there and take a look at all these rules and regulations that are completely stupid and get rid of them, because Arizona has 50% less rules than we do in New Mexico, and look how great Arizona is doing. We can do better. We must do better. No state can compete with us when it comes to Los Alamos National Lab, down here to Albuquerque with Sandia National Lab, the mission partners. Engineering school, best in the country at New Mexico Tech, White Sands Missile Range. We are just waiting for prosperity, but you have awful leaders who have passed incredibly disastrous policies that have hurt lower and middle class New Mexicans, and this is why we're last in my administration. That ends. Thank you so much.
Good evening, guys. Thanks so much for coming out. This is a good-looking crowd. Looks like a group of folks that are going to help us turn New Mexico around. The last thing in the world that we need is more government getting involved in our economy. We need less government involved in our economy. So job number one on day one, is to end the governor's draconian health orders. Her emergency health orders have to stop. 40% of our businesses are closed because she's interfering with business. So the job of government is to secure the border. It's to assure rule of law, protect your property, which includes your business and your ability to provide for your family and your home. And beyond that, it's to get out of the way. So as governor, I've experienced what it's like to start businesses in New Mexico. I've started 3 and created 78 jobs. And I'm regulated by 13 different agencies. Regulations are in the way. Some of those are statutes, and we have to reverse those. But lots of them are rules and rules and regulations. And as the only candidate with executive experience, I know where those rules and regulations are. It's rules and regulations from OCD and from the Environment Department that are getting ready to shut down our stripper wells in southwest New Mexico, even though oil and gas represents a little over half of our budget. So what we have to do is appoint good boards and commissions. There's over 260 of them, and those should be the people with solutions, not people getting a political payback and an appointment because they gave a contribution, but it's the people who know where the barriers are and how to get government out of the way. So when we let people thrive, as I've been going across the state, New Mexico is full of entrepreneurs, we're full of innovators, and the solutions are in the local communities. So we get rid of centralizing the power, we give the power back to the people, and every small business will thrive, and every medium-sized business will grow, and people will be able to see our state reach our full potential. It's time for New Mexico to thrive.
What is New Mexico's economic development plan right now? I can tell you, casinos, weed, and personal injury attorneys. That is what we have devolved to. And here are the 2 things that Governor Bush did back when he first took over in Texas. He did 2 things. One, he didn't nip at the edges on tax reform. He wiped it clean and started over, which is getting rid of the gross receipts tax and the income tax and all the things that everyone has said here. And here's the second thing he did, and this is really important, but it's boring: tort reform. Our businesses are terrified of getting sued. I have an attorney friend who says, I'm recommending people to shut down. You are one lawsuit away from losing everything every single day. Why bother? And what have we done in this state with the personal injury attorneys and all this qualified immunity and so on and so forth? It's crushing us. He did those 2 things, tax reform and tort reform. If we did those 2 things, you watch New Mexico take off, because we do have the 2 substantial kinds of wealth in the world. And there's a difference between wealth and money. There's wealth from the earth: oil, gas, timber, copper, iron, aluminum, uranium. Is New Mexico wealthy in all of that? Yes. Do we take advantage of it? No. What's the other kind of wealth? Wealth from human hands. Taking aluminum, turning it into an airplane. Computers, your car, that's wealth to me. It used to be, that's high tech. It used to be railroads, then it was cars, then it was computers. You know what's coming next? Quantum computing, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, micromachinery. Where was that born? Here! Yes, I want the low-tech jobs. I want the vocational jobs. Let's keep them. But I want to keep the nerds too. Let's combine high-tech and low-tech. We'll turn this state around. God bless you all. Thanks.
Okay, you want to stimulate the economy, being a small business owner in this state, don't close us down. If she wants to stimulate the economy, then don't have small businesses run under the same tax regulations and environmental regulations as Walmart, because all that does is bring us down. You know what? As a small business owner, I go against Walmart and gross receipts tax, air regulation, waste regulation, and how I treat my employees, which, by the way, we treat our employees well. You know, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we do what we do well, which is keep our oil and gas. We got to make sure that they're healthy, because something that provides 40% of our state budget, we cannot close. So I will make sure that oil and gas is healthy and thriving in the state of New Mexico. Oh, you're going to take from my time. What we're also going to do is that, you know what, why don't we look at the way we invest in New Mexico? Right now, our permanent fund is actually invested out of state. Isn't that interesting that you would think that we would actually put capital into small businesses and put seed money to bring investment here? If you want to know why we can't get businesses and good corporation jobs, as a lot of you know, I work in the healthcare industry. My CEO from Medtronic, we're the biggest device maker in the world, came here 13 years ago. We were building our brand new plant for pacemaker, MRI safe pacemakers. He took it back because he wanted to bring a plant here to New Mexico. He said, you guys are first in crime, last in education. There's no way we could bring it here. So unless we fix crime and education, we will never get jobs here. My duty, first month, is to make sure our industries are healthy and to make sure that we redo our regulations and tax structure to make sure we can bring good paying jobs for our best asset, our children. Thank you.
Yate, my name is Karen Bedoni with economics. This is actually the question I really love. We have to burn the poverty wick at both sides of the candle, because we are going into poverty and we're seeing it happen right now. Everything's tanking, everything's going up. And yes, oil and gas is very important. The coal industry, there's so much happening. We need to get everything back online. That's the first thing we need to do. And to make sure that we take down all the red tape. Because right now, the red tape for small businesses is horrendous. If you do everything by the book, you're lucky you break even. And it's really hard that way. And we've launched over 20 businesses, not my own. We had 4. We're down to 2. We're about to lose another one. So we're just, going through the stresses of trying to figure out how do we stay afloat. So we know exactly what to do. But the first thing we're going to have to do is actually tackle the corruption. We are hemorrhaging money in New Mexico just like the federal government has. Being a Native American, I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening. $600 million you saw come through the CARES Act to my tribe. We haven't felt it or seen a penny of it because we are one big laundry machine. And on the other end, I believe the Democrats are catching it on the other side. And it's through invoicing. It's fake invoicing. And so I wanted to track New Mexico money, and so I went digging. And I did. And I found the guy they call the Indian hater. He used to run the finance chair for the state of New Mexico. He got ostracized because he identified that the money was hemorrhaging from New Mexico. It's your tax dollars, and it's going through Indian country. And then they're rerouting it around small nonprofits and all kinds of different entities. And so we found this and we understand what's happening. That is the real answer. If we cannot stop the corruption, we can't do anything. And we have to win to stop this governor now.
So next up, crime. Everybody knows we're absolutely the worst in the nation. Albuquerque has the highest crime rate. And as governor, what exactly would you do to lower crime statewide? And what resources do you feel that law enforcement needs to do the job efficiently?
I announced my candidacy on July 7th with the Albuquerque Journal. Within that article, I drove a few stakes in the ground, and one was regarding law and order, which is in Bernalillo County off the charts. I brought to light the 2016 failed bail reform. All that did was create a situation where the court system, it made life easier for the judges just to send them back out. Here's your court date, we'll text you, you come back to court. I said it's a failure. You have violent felons that are going through a revolving door, they're getting arrested more than once and released with ankle bracelets. Recently, they had an individual that just cut one off and was in the wind for 24 hours. The court didn't even notify the Albuquerque Police Department that the guy was gone. Luckily, they found him at one of his old places up on East Central, and he got rearrested. So, that poke in the eye, someone in her administration is keeping track, because she announced a week after that particular incident that she was going to look at the 2016 bail reform during the next budget session, which is supposed to be budget only for 30 days. They rotate 60 days, 30 days, 60 days, 30 days on legislative sessions. So she's putting it on the call, and instead of just the budget, they're going to take a look at that and tweak it. I take that as a compliment in that I'm a threat. And I love that stop sign. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I am the only candidate up here that has law enforcement endorsements. I am the first county commissioner in the history of Sandoval County to get the union endorsements from the sheriff's deputies. Why is that? Because I support law enforcement. We got to get rid of qualified immunity. That's got to go. Tim is exactly right. The bail reform in this state has been a complete disaster. You're seeing crime like you've never seen before here in New Mexico. Albuquerque is a combat zone. This is why I want to have our law enforcement officers no longer serve 25 years, because we're losing too many police officers. This is the most in history that we've lost. People are retiring and we can't attract enough police officers. We got to take that down from 25 to 20 years. And then when you serve your community here in New Mexico as a first responder for 20, 25 years, we need to give you a tax break and reduce your property taxes by 50%. So you can stay here in New Mexico, because we love our law enforcement, we love our first responders. And the problem we're seeing with our police officers is every time a police officer puts on that uniform, they go into a combat environment every single day. I can relate to that, my time in Afghanistan with PTSD. You see these officers after 20, 25 years, they have physical scars. They have a lot of them have some mental health issues, substance abuse, financial issues. And they're still young in their 40s and can have a second career. They don't feel supported. They will finally have a governor who has their back. And that's why I'm getting all their endorsements, because they love my stance on law enforcement, and we got to take care of them. And that's going to be a priority in a block administration, and it has to be, because if we don't have safe streets, we're not going to get business investment here. This is why Sandoval County, I represent Corrales. It was been named the safest district in the entire state. It's Corrales in my district in the county commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, and it's so important. First of all, if you are a law enforcement officer in here, thank you. You are our heroes. And the assumption that it is institutionally racism and that there is systematic racism within law enforcement is absolutely absurd in a state where the law enforcement officers, the majority are people of color. So first of all, we passed the House Bill 4, which creates qualified immunity, and we assume that our law enforcement officers are bad actors, and it's just not the truth. Every day they leave their homes, they put their lives on the line, they say goodbye to their families, and they don't know if they're coming home. So we have to celebrate them, and we have to listen to them. So in the House, they bring us bills, and they ask for things like, please don't give us an unfunded mandate. No law enforcement officers objected to body cams. They wanted them. It's a form of protection for them, because they're accused of things that they don't do. But we didn't put money with the cams. We just was an unfunded mandate. So in order to buy the cams, depending on the budget they have within their local communities, they had to cut their forces or not fill their vacancies. So it was a backdoor way of reducing our law enforcement. And when you add House Bill 4, the one that creates liability for our law enforcement officers, it's not worth the risk. They are subject to, how do they protect, how do they serve? They say we've always had one hand tied behind our back, now it's two. So just in Albuquerque alone, 316 officers had resigned, with 80 more putting in quit or retired, putting in early retirement or their intention of quitting before the end of the year. So our governor tries to put a Band-Aid on her failed policy by sending in 50 state police officers. But what I've spent the last 20 years doing is working with young children for vulnerable families, because all the research shows families are the one indicator of student success. That's it. That's how we create healthy children, and that's how we build healthy communities. So I will continue to work on the prevention, early intervention side of it to make sure that families have the resources they need to thrive, and so that children and families do not turn to what's called diseases of poverty, domestic violence, substance abuse, why we see our veterans in tent cities. And so we have to start early and prevent and break the diseases of poverty in New Mexico.
Do you know we're emptying the prisons? It's not just the revolving door. We typically had 7,400 or 7,600 prisoners. We're down in the 5,000s. And it's Cisco McSorley that's releasing them. Right? Right. So what's going on here? If you wonder why crime is going up, well, if you release these criminals back out on the streets with no consequences, what do you expect? Now let me throw something else out to you. How many think the border situation is exacerbating all of this? Right. You know, fentanyl seizures are up 4,000%. The drugs, the crime, the trafficking, all that's coming over, it's all integrated. Let's add another one. How many of you think all of this money printing is going to end badly? Okay? When it ends badly, is there going to be financial stress out there, and will that spill into the streets? Yes, it will. How are we going to handle this? I would say this. There are two choices. One is the top-down approach that our governor likes doing. I'm in charge here, and start locking everybody down just like she does. Or there's another choice, and that's bottom-up. How many of you are willing to work with the police, the fire, the first responders to defend your families, to defend your neighborhoods, to defend your communities? Why don't we, that was the question, how do we fix the crime problem? The key word in that was we. We're the cavalry. We're going to have to do it in conjunction with all these fine law enforcement officers, and you're right, the combat veterans who are out there every day. But it's going to be us together, neighbors, vecinos is what we used to say. We can do it. That's how we're going to fix this. Make sense? All right, thanks everybody.
You know, the interesting thing is catch and release just doesn't go on at the border. It happens downtown Albuquerque every weekend and during every day. If we want to stop crime, then we actually have to get police officers. And how do we do that? We actually treat them with the respect that they deserve. Because the last time I checked, when there's a bad situation going on, we're running out and they're the ones who are going in. We need to respect our men and women in blue. We need to give them back their qualified immunity. They can't do their job scared. When I'm governor, we will not defund the police. We will refund the police and get them the resources that they need to do their job. You know, I talk to a lot of law enforcement every single day at Calibers because they're doing a lot of their certification and practicing there. All they want is respect, and they just want to do their job. You know, they don't want to be social workers, but they also don't want to be catching the same criminal every 2 days because the criminals come in, and by the time they fill out a report, the criminal's already out. So my father always taught me, I'm sure like your parents did, if you're going to do the crime, you're going to do the time. And we need to get rid of these DAs who won't do their job and these judges who won't do their job, and we need to elect judges who will hold them responsible. That's the only way we're going to do this and take back our cities. Ladies and gentlemen, I travel all over New Mexico. You know, and I think it's interesting because the governor's always quick to say racism, racism, that's what they're getting arrested. Well, guess what? It's ridiculous when 40 to 70% of all of our officers are people of color. They're just trying to do their job. So let's support our men and women in blue, and let's just quit making excuses on why we can't keep our criminals in jail. All right? It's not racism, it's called justice. Thank you.
All right, crime. Again, we did a lot of research. I met with the chief of police, Association Chief of Police. He sat down with an extensive understanding of what he's really going through. He can't even get control of his police departments. And that's I guess the unanimous voice that they're saying they can't fire the bad apples. The system is broken. They don't have enough training. They don't get enough people in there. The pay is bad. And the qualified immunity whole thing is, they need it back. Right now, they have police officers that won't even draw their weapons now because they don't want to get, sued. So women are in danger. Children are being neglected. And it looks like the byproducts of poverty, because right now our workforce is completely decimated. So people are home, they're bored, and poverty is stressful. And the byproducts of poverty are alcoholism, drug abuse, you name it, domestic violence, it all happens, the child neglect, and that's because we don't have an economy or people need to get back to work. So it's tied into that. Also, our schools are now indoctrination camps. So these kids are coming out of there without any respect. They're having a hard time in college, they're coming out more aggressive. So we need to understand that as well. But we also need to really beef up our laws, and we need to hold them accountable. And these judges that let these guys go, we need to shine the light on them too. The justice system is broken here. Another big thing is I'm actually considering bringing back the death penalty for the most heinous crimes, especially on children and infants. And currently, right now, we are pushing legislation for missing, murdered Indigenous women, and it's going to set a precedent for all of Americans. And what we're doing in this legislation is we're trying to attach the Second Amendment and also castle doctrination. I want all of you to have that. If someone breaks into your home, I expect you to be carrying, and I expect you to pull the trigger if they start harming your family. And that's how I feel. Thank you.
All right, our police officers. I just had a conversation with the sheriff. They were meeting with the Sheriff's Association. And the problem that we're having, of course, stems back to MLG. All the problems we have right now stem back to MLG. But the problem that we have, especially in Albuquerque, is this. Right now, they are down to 600 officers. They should be 1,200. And then of those 600, they've got 60 that are on duty to just all they do is police other officers. And then we have the Albuquerque Journal that is really bored and has nothing better to do than to report that an officer was eating a burrito moving with his leg. And I mean, these people are just being beat up day and night, all the time that they are shining the light on our police officers. I believe you know what, right now we don't need to defund the police. We just demoralize the heck out of them, and that's exactly what's happening to them. So what I've already done is I have gone in and I met with Chief Medina, with my pastor, and we have sat and we have prayed with them, and we let them know that there are more with them than there are against them. And also because they need to know that. And again, I like Rebecca Dow, thank you officers for serving, because you put your lives on the line every single day. And I think, how in the world are they going to put social workers to go out there to a domestic violence dispute? Is that like the most stupid thing you ever heard in your life? Because you'll end up with a whole lot of dead people. Yeah, absolutely. So we need to let the police officers do their job. And that includes, and the catch and release problem that we have here, it should be for fish, not for criminals. And so, but the problem is that as soon as they are in there, what's happening is they're out, like they've said, even before the paperwork is dry, and they are out there getting, back in the streets, committing the same crime over and over again. Thank you very much.
So sadly, New Mexico ranks last in education. What specific things would you do to fix our broken public school system and help our kids get a better education?
Okay. So I don't know if you know this, but the 2019 New Mexico Teacher of the Year, Jessica Sanders, just endorsed me. And I'm the only candidate to get a Teacher of the Year endorsement because of my education plan. First of all, we have to go back. Well, let me just say this. I firmly believe government schools should compete with private schools, charter schools, and home schools. This is about competition here in the United States, and it's important that we have that. We have to go back to a classic liberal education, K through 8. Reading, writing, arithmetic, and start testing the students and the teachers, and stop passing them along and failing them when they get out, because you and I are going to pay for that when they're out in society. What we need to do when they're freshmen in high school is put them on a track. Is there any young kids in here? Where? Joey. Yeah, Joey. Think about a kid who is a freshman. He wants to be a welder. Here's what we have to do. We have to focus on the trades. We have to focus on the future of technologies as cyber, artificial intelligence, financial management. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that kid, and he is not going to be in school 5 days a week when he's a junior or senior. He's going to be out in private industry learning how to be a welder 1 or 2 days a week. He's going to have the academic training in the schools and the hands-on training out in private industry. So when he graduates, he doesn't have to go to college. He's ready to go. He can go get a welding job making 80, 90 grand a year down in the oil fields or somewhere here in the Albuquerque area because we're subsidizing our kids to leave the state. And that needs to end. We cannot teach critical race theory in the schools. I will sign an executive order banning that. Gone. That is your job as parents to teach your kids that, not the government. It's the government's job in private schools to teach and prepare students to go. We need to compete, and we need school choice and vouchers. Thank you.
Guess what, Jay? I'm the only person on this stage who's a recipient of Excellence in Education from the Rio Grande Foundation. I'm the only candidate on this stage who's a recipient of the Administrator of the Year from the New Mexico Non-Public Schools Association. I'm the only candidate on this stage who is a recipient of the New Mexico Charter School Association Legislative Champion. And so that's because my background is education, and how do we improve public education? All education in New Mexico is school choice. So we improve public schools by letting teachers teach, administrators administrate, and parents parent. And that happens with school choice. Research says parents are the #1 indicator of student success. Not the government, not a district, not a teacher, not classroom size, not curriculum. It's parents feeling engaged and part of their children's education. And in my 20 years raising my 2 children in New Mexico, they did public school, private school, homeschool, and they did dual enrollment because parents know what their children's need, and it's educators' job to come and partner with parents and assure that every child reaches their individual potential. So when we pass school choice, I think we're going to fight back on CRT. And by the way, if you haven't looked, the social studies standards are up. I serve on the education committee, and guys, it's worse than we ever thought it would be. We have got to stop MLG. We've got to teach kids how to read and write. Critical race theory is not necessary. And so the governor appointed a commission. That commission will be gone when I'm governor, and let them write the standards. Those standards will change when I'm governor, and we're going to get back to the basics. It's going to happen through reform. Everything is local. From our school boards, they make the local decisions. First with our parents. Dollars follow students, and every child should reach their full individual potential. That's progressing each grade on time and graduating with a post-high school goal in mind. Thank you.
Follow the money. How does the money flow in education right now? First, the education money flows to actually politicians, then to bureaucrats, then unions, then administrators, then teachers, parent, kid. We need to turn this totally on its head. The money starts with the kid. $12,000, $14,000 follows each kid wherever they want to go. School choice is all great, but you better have the money. You better be able to afford it. And then the parents get involved, and teachers and parents work really well together. And administration starts to shrink, and unions start to diminish, and bureaucrats and politicians, who cares? There are states that are following this model right now. States that were at the bottom, like Kentucky and West Virginia, and they're moving up the chain of command. Well, where are we? Here. So that's step one. Money with the kid, flip the thing upside down. Second, why do we have a public education department? Why do we have the PED? This is a new invention. This was Richardson. How did it used to be? Local schools, local school boards took care of their own communities, their own schools, their own decisions, and you had school, right. Thank you, yeah, I applaud a lot. Now, as a governor, you can't get rid of the PED right now, but could you declaw it? Could you cut their power? Could you cut their authority so they're not doing the bony finger in the chest right now to little communities like Floyd, New Mexico? And the amen to Floyd for standing up against the beast. In the 20 years we've had the PED, has education improved at all, ever, in 1 year in this state? No. If you had an employee that had 20-year horrible experience, what would you do with them? Fire them. That's what I propose.
Okay, first of all, as being the only Hispanic up here, I think critical race theory is crap. Oh, Ethel? Oh, okay. Sorry, my mom is a Montoya. My dad is a Sanchez. So with that, I do. And, you know, it's interesting the Journal didn't put what I quoted when they asked me about critical race theory. I thought it was crap, but I did. Because my mom and dad did not bring myself, my brother, my sister up to be victims. All right? Our school systems should not be indoctrinating our kids. They ought to be educating our kids. My plan is for the money to follow the kids because that happened to my son. All right? He didn't prosper in elementary school. He didn't prosper in private school, so we took him to a charter school. But the reason I say that is it's your money. It's your property taxes. Your money should follow and your kid to the school you want them to go to. And if that school isn't educating your kid, then guess what? You should have every right to move that kid. We need to take the power away from the unions and give it back to the teachers. Every time we have teachers who are afraid to speak up and principals who are afraid to speak up right now because they're afraid of getting fired, and that's not right. In my administration, guess what? Teachers will have a voice and teachers will educate reading, writing, and arithmetic. They shouldn't be telling our kids that they're victims and oppressors. One thing that really gets me is I think our Secretary of Education, if we have one, should actually live in the state. Because we shouldn't be having somebody in Pennsylvania or Washington, D.C. telling us how to educate our kids in Albuquerque, Bernalillo, Socorro, Ruidoso, and Roswell, because every kid is different. In my administration, teachers will come first, and we will educate our kids and not indoctrinate them. Thank you.
We lost $30 million because we missed the deadline, because our Secretary of Education didn't file in time. That, and in our PED department, is now ripping through school boards. I was on the ground with Floyd School. I was on the ground with Portales. I was in the Four Corners. I was hitting school board after school board, talking to these families, sitting with the kids and really listening to what they're really going through. This is really important that we understand this. What are they eating in school? A lot of them can't even function because they're starving, is what I'm told. They don't get enough to eat. They're not allowed to get seconds. The ones that don't get paid or put the money out, they don't get to eat. And so we're dealing with a lot of weird stuff here where it impacts a child. Now they're masking them and they're not even the demographic for this virus. So we need to be able to really get in there and save our children. And right now, this governor's the worst thing ever, but I am a homeschool mother. I have raised 8 children on my watch. They are all conservative, they're all Republican, and they're all going to be business owners. It depends on how you raise your children, how you're going to be able to impact the state. You have to be able to empower each and every child with the American dream. If it's rural, if it's development, if it's vocational, because my background, yes, I was very intelligent. I went on scholarship programs, but the indoctrination was real even when I was in school. And I opted to go into vocational arts. It's not because I was too stupid or anything like that. No, I became a certified welder. I made a very good living. We're also contractors. I built homes. So when that big housing development happened, I was doing that. And we have to empower these children. So right now, yes, everything they said, we're going to have the money follow the child, but we need to revamp our education system and have it fit the child. And we need to make sure that we do this quickly and fast. And that actually should be the first thing on our list when we take office, is our children. Thank you.
Hola, Louis. Sí hablo español. Just had to say that. Sí. Garcia y Cordova, just so you guys know. I know, Maharg. School. Last year, we had $734 million come in from the oil and gas company. Each child got $18,000. Where did it go? They weren't even in school. So you tell me, where did that money go? Because it did not help our kids at all. All right, the money, again, like everybody says, it should follow the child. It should, wherever that child is, wherever the parent, if it goes to parents, if it goes to public school, charter schools, it does not matter, but it should follow the child. They should be taught reading, writing, arithmetic, not sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which is being taught right now. I promise you, Planned Parenthood is in every single school, teaching our kids to be sexually engaged so that they can grow their next crop of abortion. And that is the way it is right now. So we need to be able to teach our kids the things that are important. I taught school. I got to see these poor kids, and they would come in, and some of them were coming in drunk at 9 o'clock in the morning. You know what these kids needed more than anything? They needed somebody to love them and to say no to them. And that's exactly what I did. And I had one of them who hated me with a passion, and because I was a teacher, right? Until I said to him, "You're a welder, right?" I said, "You're in welding class, correct?" And he says, "Yes, I am." I said, "Would you consider making me some horse feeders because I need some?" And he said, "Yeah." The next thing I know, he makes 2 beautiful horse feeders for me, and this kid became my best friend. Why? Because I showed him some value, and I let him be the best that he could be. Because you see, I'm about the trades as well, because I'm a former barber also, and the trades make a lot of really good money. And most of the kids, face it, do not go to college. Why are we going to let them be put into a whole bunch of debt?
I spent 30 plus years teaching kindergarten through college in public, private, parochial, pueblo, and charter schools. I never wanted to be a stagnant teacher. I taught and coached. I enjoyed the process. I want to thank all the candidates that talked about vouchers and school choice, because I started that fight in 1998 on Gary Johnson's re-election campaign. I told him that Marty Chavez was just going to spend more money, and nothing's going to get done. He ran with school choice and vouchers, won re-election, called me up to work as his education policy advisor. The greatest job I ever had. We fought every day with the status quo, the educational establishment, the unions. That's one reason I'm running for governor. I need to finish the job that I started back in 1998. In the last 20 years, public education has spent $40 billion just to educate K through 12 children. They have 0 results for $40 billion. We have $34.4 billion in our 2 permanent funds. They spent more than our permanent funds and got 0 results. I have 3-prong attack, universal school vouchers for every child, kindergarten through 12th grade. It also includes homeschoolers, which your daughter would be happy with because she homeschools. Everybody gets a chance with liberty and opportunity. And the second one is universal charter schools, no more cap. That creates competition, and it's going to destroy the educational establishment now. Thank you.
As governor, what would you do to help with the immigration issue that is happening right now? The second part of that question is, what would you do to stop the constant influx of dangerous drugs like fentanyl that are coming over the border into New Mexico?
These are federal issues, and obviously Biden has taken a lawlessness approach on our border. And so we have the issue that I've been talking about early. It's a 600% increase of fentanyl coming across our border. And that is compounding our issues. And I just visited the emergency room, and it was full of folks who clearly had substance issues and behavioral health issues. It's harming our New Mexicans. In addition, the Medicaid rules just came out today. And when we are talking about the fact that we have veterans in the streets in tent cities, we have folks have been waiting for disability services for up to 17 years. The governor has just announced that folks who've come across the border illegally and are not nationalized are going to get free Medicaid in the state of New Mexico. Our sovereignty of our nation is under attack by a progressive agenda. The first thing that Michelle Ohang Grisham did when she came into office was to take away the National Guard. The first thing that I will do is redeploy them. Any partnerships that we can have with our with our federal agencies, I will engage in those partnerships. That's to stop the drugs coming across the border, to stop the human trafficking. I represent a border district right now in the House of Representatives, and when I visit that border district, I hear stories about OMI officers going out to retrieve dead bodies, about our air ambulances going out to retrieve people who are sick and dying that have crossed the border and have no help. That we have sex trafficking and human trafficking is prevalent in our state, and the more folks that they send across the border, and our border agents are spending their time processing, the less time they have to secure our nation, our personal property, and to protect our families. So we have got to deploy the National Guard. We have got to listen to the needs, what Border Patrol says they need, what our local law enforcement officers say they need, and make sure that they can do their job and that we can secure our border and save our nation and our sovereignty.
Greg knows borders. As a lieutenant, I served on the Czechoslovakian border back in the Cold War days. Let's see, I'm pretty familiar with the demilitarized zone in South Korea. I was the deputy commander and then commander at Guantanamo Bay. We shared a border with the Cubans. We met with them once a month on border issues. And I was sent to the New Mexico border back when President Bush called us up in the 2000s. The border issue is easy to solve. Who had it figured out? President Trump. Right? Yeah, right. Would I deploy the National Guard? Of course. That's what I did. It works. Now, the National Guard works in support roles. We got to be careful on the Constitution, the posse comitatus, and all the legal part in the Constitution and deploying an army. But did we work so well with the border authorities? Yes. And was President Trump right about the wall? Yes. And is Texas trying to take matters into its own hands now because Joe Biden, I won't even call him President Biden, because Joe Biden, right, Joe Biden won't do anything. Is Arizona doing the same? They are. And New Mexico's become the funnel, hasn't it? And everything Rebecca just said is right. This creepy stuff about what they're doing with the kids, it's really bad. And what they're doing with the women is really bad. And the drugs, this is too stupid to be stupid. There's a plan going on here, and it's a national security issue. And I would ask you to consider General Zanetti to solve that national security issue. Thank you.
I usually don't go against that. It is a national security, but it's a state issue right now. Because if you look on the media and you look at TV, who are they talking about? They're talking about Texas. They're talking about Arizona. They're talking about California, but they don't ever mention New Mexico. Isn't that interesting? The best man at my wedding actually works in Border Patrol. And it's not only fentanyl that's coming across, but they're mandating us to get vaccinated when there's no vaccination mandates coming across the border. They're mandating us to wear masks, but there's no mask mandate. One of my good friends, and I can't tell you his name, but he works at the hospital because you know how that's going right now at the hospitals. He volunteers down at the centers where immigrants come across. 37% COVID positive rate, no testing, and they're released into a center, put on buses, and then put who knows where. I think everybody up here is in agreement. We will send the National Guard to go down there because our Border Patrol needs all the help that they can get. But you know what? Just because they're coming across and it is a national issue, we don't have to make it easy, do we? We can do what Texas has done. Governor Abbott has actually offered to private landowners to build a wall. Because if you build it a little bit farther back, you can build it. We don't have to have an open door policy. We can all do this together and make our state safe. Right now, we're getting inundated in crime, right? Everybody talked about crime already. We don't even know who's coming through. The worst thing I heard was from my best friend when he told me, he goes, crime's only one problem. He goes, but when you get the sexual trafficking and when you find dead bodies in trailers, he's like, it's not about a humanitarian issue. It's about a human issue at that point. So as governor, I will send the National Guard, and I will protect New Mexico's border, and I will follow Texas's lead, and we will make it so hard to get into this state, they will not want to come. Thank you.
What we understand, the material's there and sitting in the dirt. We got to finish it. Whether we have the federal government help or not, the 10th Amendment is going to be our responsibility. From my understanding of what the builders wanted, it's the people that control the government. The federal overreach is insane. We need to actually stand up and start parenting the federal government. We've had a border crisis, and how many administrations since I was a child we've had a crisis? Well, with Bedoni in the governor's seat, we will no longer have a crisis because we're going to go down there and finish this border, we're going to turn off the faucet, and we're going to see what we can do with the ones that have already come in. I think we need to have them be vetted and push them back out if they're not willing to become Americans completely. Because right now, the refugees they sent in here, I was talking with a Representative Yvette Harrell. She says that in 2 weeks, which was 2 weeks ago, so now it's only going to take them 2 weeks to become citizens. They're giving them to them across yes, it usually takes 10 years. So right now, we are looking at 20,000 plus refugees coming in. They're all getting registered Democrat. We have to factor that in. So right now, as Americans, we're going to have to stop with the party stuff. We're going to have to band together and get a governor who's going to really get this done. Now, being a Navajo woman, the Hogan is how we live. You enter the door through the east side, you go around, you adhere to the rules, you take your place, you learn your place. If you don't like it, you may eat, have some water, and then you go out the way you came in. And that's how border control should be, for the protection and the organization for all. And so with this whole border thing, I'm ready to go down there. I'm talking with other contractors. I'm literally going to suit back up. I haven't welded in about 20 years, but I'm going to go down and throw some beads because I'm going to show you New Mexicans that I'm serious, because I did run along that border. I did climb into those caves. I did see things I shouldn't have seen. I saw underwear and all kinds of stuff. I have been burying Native women because we are in the funeral industry. So it's a big deal. So anyway, thanks.
I'm the granddaughter of an immigrant. My grandfather came from Germany. He was a Jew, escaping the Holocaust at that time. So I know how to get it right. He got it right. In fact, he got it so right that he ended up serving as a state senator and then also a county commissioner for New Mexico. So there is a way to get it done right. But what we have right now is a crisis that's not getting it done right. And the COVID is related. It's all a big plan, folks. And what the governor should have done is she should have sent the National Guard down there to close that down. But you see, what she wanted instead was to raise the numbers of COVID so that we could all be locked down again, because the another election's coming, of course. So what we need to do is shut that border down. But it is not getting done because we have all these refugees that are coming across. They're not being vetted. The Afghan refugees are in these camps. They're in the Air Force bases. They are not vetted. They're going through 2 weeks of vetting, if that. They are now allowed to walk off, and once they do, they cannot come back. Most of them have COVID. Recently, Congresswoman Yvette Harrell had said that there were 800 undocumented unaccompanied minors that had come across, and 600 of those were COVID positive. So you see, those numbers rose not because we were sick, but because they were trucking them in. And again, it is all by design so that they can affect the election, so that they can produce more voters for themselves. That, along with the drugs, it's another part of the plan, because what it is if you can people on drugs, you can keep them subdued, you can keep them on welfare, and you can control them. And so we need to address both of those issues head on. We need to take the National Guard down there. I believe, like everyone else, we need to build that wall all over again, whatever it takes. And under my administration, I would see to it that we would get that done and get the wall done and the drugs out. Thank you.
I think we're all in agreement with the border issue. As governor, I would also consider not just the National Guard, but a state militia to go down and support the National Guard and the Border Patrol. Border Patrol's overwhelmed. I do want to be a bad candidate and finish what I wanted to say about education. Unlimited charter schools would provide an open door for teachers and administrators in the public school system that are tired of the toxic environment, all the mandates coming down from PED. They could leave the schools and open their own innovative and challenging charter schools. My son-in-law did that with a single gender academy 6 years ago, Coral Community School, elementary school. So it can be done. And if you have unlimited charter schools, that creates a strong environment of competition. The public school districts would have to wake up and put up and start doing their job. The third prong is absolute educational empowerment for all 22 Native societies in this state. No more mandates from the state, no more government involvement with the process that they get to teach their own and run their own schools. It can be done, and I want to see it done as your governor. Thank you.
You know, Chrissy and I just went down to the border for the second time recently, and we were down south of Deming and talking to some farmers and ranchers down there, and you know, they're struggling, and they've never seen any of their state reps down there in a long, long time. In the Border Patrol, we ran into an agent down there, and he said that the Border Patrol is short 100 agents in the Deming and Lordsburg area. The federal government is not doing enough to attract and hire federal Border Patrol agents. You know, I'm the first guy who's talked about getting the National Guard back down on the border. And it's got to be done. It's going to be done right after I'm sworn in. I can tell you that without a doubt. But I will also tell you that we got to do more. I'm the only one that's talked about setting up a New Mexico Border Security Agency with law enforcement authority to work with local, county, and federal law enforcement partners. This is the other reason why the law enforcement folks are endorsing me and none of the other candidates, because we have to stop the tide of fentanyl coming in. We have over 100 people from over 100 different countries coming into the United States. We saw a 21-mile gap right here in New Mexico, and the Border Patrol is overwhelmed. And the National Guard can augment and help. I do know a little bit about borders as well, because being in the military, I was a base commander, and I was also a commander of nuclear facilities using technology. No one else has that experience up here. We have to stop the influx of what's going on. And we have to be compassionate about it, because we're seeing vulnerable people that are dying coming here in record numbers. You're seeing now over 200,000 illegals coming across every month, the most that we've seen in over 20 years. That has to stop. But I will tell you this, as your governor, we're not going to be a sanctuary state for illegal immigrants anymore. And we welcome immigrants. We welcome them legally. I'm trying to get my family from Afghanistan, my interpreter's family here. And I will check and order every single jail, any inmate in New Mexico. We will check their citizenship. And once they're done their time, if they're not a citizen, they're gone. We don't want them here. Thank you.
What other issues do you feel are important, and what would you do to address those? Because this would be something that's immediate, something that's so important to you that you would start working on it the minute that you become governor, and I want specifics on how you would fix it.
Water. Without water, we got nothing. Do you know that New Mexico, by some estimates, has 15 billion acre feet of brackish water? It's amazing. Now, some people say that's too high. Some people say, no, Greg, it might be a tenth of that. All right, let's just say it's 2 billion acre feet. That's enough for Albuquerque to have water for 1,000 years. The technology to desalinate water and to bring the brackish water up, and by the way, brackish water does not have water rights attached, nor is it under the compacts. We own it. We have over 20 water basins in this state, up and down the Rio Grande Valley, on the east side, on the west side, of this state, we could become the water state. Israel has developed unparalleled technology to desalinate water. And we could become the state that isn't aching for water, but we could give water to others. Now, here's what you do. You have to have power. Here's for the green guys. Now what you do is you say, all right, we're going to use the green energy to help bring that water up. Now people are going to say, oh, no, that's too expensive. No, actually not. What we're finding is the technology has improved on the desalination. The cost of the fresh water, we have to ship it farther, it's deeper. The lines haven't crossed yet, but we're getting there. What if we were the water state? What if the Tularosa Basin were the new Imperial Valley of the United States? What if the Rio Grande Valley was just acre after acre of food and almonds and all the things that they grow in California now? We address water. We will be the first state to do it, and you watch what happens to this state. We will go from worst to first. Everybody with me? All right.
Wow, everybody keeps up here saying, I'm the only candidate, I'm the only candidate. Well, I'm the only candidate that actually owns a gun store. So how's that? So, let's talk about Second Amendment rights. When I'm governor, we will become a Second Amendment rights sanctuary state. There's no reason we should have to be worrying about the government coming in and taking our guns. I remember we were in Santa Fe. When we were in Santa Fe together, it's just, hundreds upon hundreds of New Mexicans are worried. The fact that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have actually said, we're going to go get the guns. Well, no, they're not. If they're governor, they're not coming into the state because according to the 10th Amendment, we're sovereign and we can make our own laws, okay? What else? Let's see. Healthcare. Why aren't we talking about healthcare, right? That's the only thing we really have good going in this state. We're 33rd in healthcare. You guys, we can actually I know, and we're bragging about it because we're not 50th. I'm the only candidate, now I see why you guys like to say that, who actually has a healthcare plan. Go figure, I've been in the healthcare industry for 27 years. I've actually worked with doctors about putting together a healthcare plan that, guess what, doesn't cost anybody else increases in their taxes. They've done it around other cities in America, and we can do it here. 80% of everybody goes to a primary care doctor first. And we can set up a program that we can set up affordable health care for everybody in this state. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do this together. But what we have to do is we have to make sure this is actually going to start next year also, not only with the governor's race, but also with our state representatives. So we need to make sure everybody in this room that it starts tonight, that we go out there and we make sure that we vote in our school boards. For Congress, we take back over Congress, and then we finish off with lieutenant governor and governor. So thank you.
Without a forensic audit, none of this matters. None of it. We have to make sure we actually know what we're doing. They've done the research. Clements, you've heard it. You listen to Mike Lindell, everything that's happening. We need it here in New Mexico. We are dirty, very dirty. And right now, nobody wants to get any county done because they say, oh, it costs too much money. But guess what? There's people out there that are willing to help us. I have been on the ground. We need at least one county or two counties to actually go through this forensic audit to trigger the rest of them. Right now, McKinley County and San Juan are in my district, and they're two of the dirtiest ones. I'm going to tell you this because the Democrats are there. It's an overlapping of the Navajo reservation. There are 150,000 unregistered Navajos to vote that don't vote in the state or federal elections. They're sitting there. They're listening to me. We're on the ground. We have a whole army. We're moving through. We are also pulling all the voter registration from Indian country, and we're going to compare it to the state. And we're going to find out who voted, who didn't, who double voted, who took a Biden, shopping card for $20 to vote for him. We're going to figure this out. And I've already talking with Project Veritas. I'm talking for We the People, and I'm determined to get something done, even if I don't win this thing. Because without this doesn't matter, and we lose everything. Our rights to vote. So being here, I am not here having fun because this is not what I set out to do. I want to go home, but I'm here. I'm here fighting for you every day. I'm treated bad. I'm ostracized. But this is what I'm doing. I don't sleep. And I'm going to dig and I'm going to find it. And I'm going to find the answers to save the state because they're coming for you. The Democrats are coming for all of us, your children. And it's not about us, it's about them. So I'm not here making jokes and having fun because this isn't fun. And I'm sorry to get emotional, but this is a church of God, and I keep praying. And I'm hoping God would enter this room and help us understand what we're really doing.
I want to echo that sentiment. I totally believe that we have got to get our voter rolls cleared up. But because without that, we can't take care of what's most important to me. Because you see, we have been endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. They're the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But without life, the other two are irrelevant. We have a crisis in our nation, in our state. Every 90 seconds, a child loses its life to abortion. In our state, now we are the abortion capital of the world. People come from all over the world to get their abortions here. And now in New Mexico, we have been a mecca for that. 2 weeks ago, there were 70 abortions committed on a Friday. And so my biggest desire, you see, I'll say just like Lou, everybody said they've been the only one. I really am the only candidate here that has executive experience. I've done it, and I think they'd be a great cabinet, don't you think? I think they would serve me well. They all have the great skills, so I think they do a really good job. But you see, I believe this. We have walked away when it's most important that we walked away from God. We've turned our backs on God. We say it's okay to kill babies in the womb. We now have assisted suicide, and when one woman took advantage of it, the governor and all her buddies in Santa Fe celebrated. It was a sad day. I cried in Albuquerque because of what had just taken place. So you see, we can save the schools, the economy, we can do the audits, we can do border patrol, all these other things that we've been talking about. But when it comes down to it, I want to ask you this question. For who? If we do not take care of the most vulnerable, it won't really matter. Thank you.
A lot of these issues are interrelated, and it all comes to the state government. The chief executive of state government is the governor. I would like to be your governor because I would reconfigure and consolidate state government. It has grown exponentially for 25 years, thanks to Bill Richardson, and then on and on and on. Currently, 27 cabinet positions. I've already done the work. There would be 9. The cancer sore of CYFD, that department has never worked appropriately. That would be under Public Safety Department in my administration. I would have law enforcement doing the investigations, retired law enforcement, because there would be a close connection between investigation and the courts. There would not be the disconnect that is the norm today with CYFD. There are 265 boards and commissions. The legislature has whittled away at it piece by piece in the last 20 years. There are 44 of them that could become 9 overnight in my administration. I've been up there. I know how things work. I may not have executive experience, but I do have real life experience, and I would like to be your next governor. Thank you.
Well, there's a lot of things that I can do as your governor within 10 minutes. I will sign executive orders, even though we have a state rep who voted for HB 40, critical race theory bill. I will get rid of critical race theory in the state of New Mexico. I will also get rid of vaccine passports and forced vaccines here in the state of New Mexico. Those are gone right away. I, as your governor, will never shut down your business, your church, or your school, and I will never overrule a school board. That is for you to decide on the local level. You elected those school board members, you vote them out if you want to. I'm not going to do it as your governor. Also, as governor, I will reimburse every business, church, and person who was fined by the governor's tyrannical mandates. And if you're in the middle of paying those right now, don't pay it. Wait for me to get elected and they're going to be waived. I will never, ever vote for one state budget that has one dime funding abortion in the state of New Mexico. My good friend Tim from Minot, North Dakota originally is right. We have to make government more lean and efficient. We need to hold government accountable. And when government takes too long for businesses to issue licenses and permits, you shouldn't have to pay anything. Why are you held to a time standard, but government is not? That's not fair. Government should be working for you, not you working for the government. And as your governor, I'll tell you, I'm not going to be taking advice from anybody like Bill Gates or any of those outside people. I'm going to have New Mexicans in the cabinet because they're residents of New Mexico and they know what's best for New Mexicans. I will never leave this state and come back and ask to be your governor. I am here for you. I fought for you many times with right to work, the Second Amendment, economic development. You're looking for an establishment candidate? Don't look to me. Look somewhere else. Thank you.
I really enjoy serving in the House of Representatives. I'm in my third term. I'm in a 34% Democrat district, and I just won by 56 points with a Libertarian. It's because I listen and I follow what my constituents ask me to do. And I like being there. But my husband and I, my family, and my extended family know that for the first time in the history of our nation, it is critical that we elect governors who understand our Constitution, that we are part of a constitutional republic, and the governors that take the pledge to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the New Mexico Constitution to heart, and that they feel compelled. This is a divinely inspired document. This is non-negotiable. And so many of the other things that the candidates have talked about, I agree with. And when we have a governor who has a reverence and a respect for our constitutional republic, who understands what it means to fight for individual state rights, especially as a Western state, that will be my priority. That is a pledge I take and how I vote now in the House of Representatives. Does this create freedom and liberty, or does it restrict it? Does this go with our constitutional rights? Does this go away from it? And so we have to have a governor who stands with other red states and defends our constitutional rights and our individual state rights, especially as a Western state, from what's happening at the federal level. It is absolutely unique, I think, to this election, and the soul of our nation depends on it. So I don't disagree with anything that they said. They are all equally important. Second Amendment's taken care of when we protect the Constitution. Life is preserved when we protect the Constitution. Our First Amendment rights and our ability to gather and assemble together and worship is protected when we protect the Constitution. And in addition to that, I definitely agree with the water issue. It's land and vegetation management, it's forest management. We can't control the drought, but we can control how we manage the land. And the true conservationists of our land are our farmers and our ranchers who have cared for this land for generations. And we have to celebrate them. We don't kick them out of the state fair, we celebrate them. And we've got to bridge the gap between consumers and producers in rural and metro New Mexico, and I'm gonna do that.
We're going to allow each one of the candidates to get up, starting with, I got to keep track, Louie, you're going to be the first one up. Yes, you. We're going to allow them 3 minutes to try to convince us why they are the best candidate, staying with the same theme of just telling us why they are the best candidate.
Absolutely. So why am I the best candidate? You hear all the candidates just like last election. I'm going to stand up for New Mexicans. I'm going to fight for New Mexicans, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. Well, where was everybody last summer? When they closed us down, I was one of the only businesses that actually stayed open, because when I ran for Senate, I said I would, and I'd fight for every one of you guys. It's interesting because we're going to hear a bunch of this, not only from gubernatorial candidates, but a lot of candidates. And we should expect more from our candidates. If they're going to stay up on stage, then have the bravery to actually get out there with the rest of us and yes, I'm looking at certain people because we were all out there together, arm in arm with New Mexicans, and we rallied for this state. And we put our names out there, and I put my business out there, but it meant that much to me. Everybody's saying, well, I can create jobs, I can do this. Really? I already create jobs, and I'm expanding in New Mexico. I know healthcare because I've been in it for 27 years. I work with some of the best doctors we have. In the last 20 years with Medtronic, I've actually brought first inpatient, top of the line medical devices to be inpatient first in New Mexico. That's never been done. I have the top territory in New Mexico, which is weird because you'd think it'd be in Dallas or Denver. But that's what happens when you have somebody who actually fights for the state and loves the state that they're in. Reason I'm doing this is a little selfish, because I would love for my sons to come back here, but there's no reason they would, because they could go to Dallas or they could go to Phoenix or Denver and make more money. That's what this means to me. See, I don't have to go around and saying, oh, well, I'm going to go here or there and meet people, because I've done that for the last 30 years. My territory encompasses 3/4 of New Mexico. So I've seen what small businesses have gone through. I actually know some of the 40% of the small businesses that have closed because they were personal friends of mine. This is very personal to me. I want to see New Mexico thrive. I have the experience. I have the business knowledge, I have the healthcare knowledge, and you know damn well I'll protect your Second Amendment rights. You know what? But this is the difference, okay? I protected them 2 years ago, 2 days ago, and I'll still be protecting them 10 years from now. So I don't need this job because I don't have lobbyists, okay? I don't have special interest groups. All I have is my word. And you guys know that I will always stand up for you, and it means that much to me because I truly care. So my objective is next November, like Trump said, I'll look Michelle Lujan Grisham right in the eye and say, you're fired. Your 15 minutes is up. Get out of my office.
Dene nishle, she Karen Badoni and she. Dene is make tribe, the Navajo tribe. It's literally translated the people. We are born and bred to believe that we always do everything for the people. You are always last. You never say I. It's always about the children and the forward thinking. You sacrifice everything, your payroll, your life, just to project for your children's children's children. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. Since the inception of this state, when they drew the lines for this state, they drew it around my family. I have been here. My ancestors have been here before time was time. We have so much skin in the game. If I lose, I believe that we're going to lose our state. The 30 by 30 is coming. Read it. Research it, know it. It's a preface for 50 by 50. If we're 34% already into the federal government hands, 50% more takes us to 84%, which means the Navajo tribes are the rest of it. 100% of New Mexico is going to be underneath government control. Welcome to the Indian country, your reservation. They're coming after your property, the infrastructure bill. Read it. So these Energy Transition Act that we went through New Mexico, they renamed it. That's the Green New Deal. They're coming for us. They're taking over our food, our education, our children's minds. They're taking away our Second Amendment rights. They're going to limit it. Those are the beginnings of conquering a people. I'm here to tell you and talk about the difficult things. I am the only candidate, and I'm going to say it because you know what? That will say the difficult things because I can. Because I am Native American. What are they going to say to me? What are they going to do to me that they haven't done already to my people? I'm here and I'm fighting for you. My people have their leaders. They're doing it. And he said he's going to give more control back to the tribes. They're not ready. When you give an alcoholic a lot of money, you could kill him. You have to go slow, and you have to let us do it on our terms. And this is what I'm doing is I'm carrying the flag for everybody. And on January 6th and November 3rd, our American flag fell. And I was out there campaigning. I had to get smuggled out of the lockdown just to finish my campaign, which was also stolen from me, I believe. We have to get this audit done. And I will start to scream from the mountaintops. And I'm hoping somebody else steps up because this is big stuff. And it is scary. The death threats will come. They're going to come for us. And I've already accepted the abuse. So I'm tough, and it's bedonitough.com. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my election down to the bitter end, into the dirt. I will call for Clements and all these lawyers to come in and audit my election. This whole election is going to get audited because I need to know the truth, and that's what I'm going to do. Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to thank you for having me be here today. I just want to let you know part of my history. I am the former mayor of the village of Cuba, and during that 10 years in office, I had to fight for that entire community. And that community not only did a small population of Cuba, but it also encompassed 2 Native American reservations, the Navajo and the Apache. I was responsible for about 10,000 people's lives, for their jobs and their livelihoods. So I had to petition the legislature and governor at the time. We had one opportunity one time. They were going to bypass us. So you know what I did? I memoed the entire town. I do whatever it takes. I loaded buses. We went to Santa Fe, and guess what? They did not bypass us, and Governor Johnson came to help us celebrate that. I fight for everything I have. I've gone into our communities. I worked with a council that was always opposed to me because they were on the other side of the fence, if you know what I mean. But we brought national recognition to our community and actually to our state, and we doubled the gross receipts revenues of our community. I built economic development for that community that is still standing to this day. It brought about 60 jobs. It may not seem like a lot, but for those people, let me tell you, it's about 600 or so for this community right here. I know how to get the job done. I've taught school. I've been a business owner. I manage banks. I have all the experience to get that done. And in the last almost decade, I've been fighting for life with all my heart. You know what? I know how to fight. I know how to organize people. I was I'm the one that coordinated the Convoy of Hope for Albuquerque, the very first one, coordinating 1,600 volunteers to bring $1 million worth of goods and services into Albuquerque to take care of that. I also trained over 200 volunteers for CareNet pregnancy centers, and I continue to educate the public about life and what is going on right now. I'm a fighter, and I will fight you to the death. I've been fighting ever since I was a little kid. You got to know that I was raised one of 7 kids in the middle of 4 brothers. So guys, I know how to fight, and I'll get down and I'll wrestle with MLG if necessary. All right. You see, folks, I've already done it. I have the experience. I know how to get things done. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to say everything that is politically correct. I am not politically correct. I say I believe in God, I believe in life, and if you don't like it, too bad, all right? Because that is who I am, and I believe that we have to be tough on those issues. First, we have to return back to God. I'm telling you guys, we have to do that, and that is one of the principles that I really want to reiterate. So I just want to let you know, I have the experience to get it done, and I'm not afraid, and I just really appreciate your vote come June 7th, first of all, and I'm in agreement with getting the audit done. Thanks.
It's an honor to be here and to have the opportunity to share my message with you. I do appreciate that. Thank you, each and every one of you. I will never lie to you or anybody else. I'm sure the panel behind me is more than likely in the same boat that I am. Tell the truth. Growing up, I had 4 brothers, 2 older, that decided one day when I was 9 to hog tie me and rolled me down the basement steps and locked the door behind me in the dark. 9 years old. That's when I became a problem solver. I got untied. I knew I couldn't get through the one and only door to get up and outside. I had bumps and bruises, but who cares about that? But we did have window seals. I don't know if any of you all remember window seals. Popped it open and got out. That was the first big problem I dealt with. I had the opportunity to work with Gary Johnson for 4 years. I indicated before, best job ever. There's a lot to be done in state government to provide what needs to be provided for everyone in this state. I make the claim I'm the liberty and opportunity candidate First of all, you have to be free, then you get the opportunity. In the economy section, I didn't emphasize that we invest in our people. If you invest in people across the socioeconomic grid, you invest in their ideas, their passion, and their work ethic. This state has a great work ethic if you can turn it loose and set it free. That's what I'd like to do. So when I talked about those loans, it's going to address all the poverty issues. It's going to address to a lot of the crime issues, because if you get a job and you work with your hands and your mind, better things happen for you and your family. I will say it again. Thank you, and I appreciate it, and God bless you.
I want to tell you just quickly a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Manchester, New Hampshire. I was born into poverty, a 19-year-old mother. My mother was a drug addict, alcoholic. My father was a blue-collar guy. I had a severe learning disability growing up with dyslexia. Later on, my parents were arrested for drugs when I was in high school and lost their jobs. I tell you that because I'm very proud of the background in my childhood, because I couldn't have asked for a better childhood. I was actually blessed. And that's the path God put me on. And I was never a victim. You're only a victim if you're ignorant, you're lazy, or you make bad decisions. I fought my way out. I've been an underdog my whole life. I didn't have money for college. I joined the Air Force Reserve and then went out to North Dakota, where Tim is from there as well, and went to North Dakota State University. Go Bison? There we go. And it was my dream and my goal to become an officer in the Air Force. And I attained that. And I was the guy who had the nuclear codes for the nation sitting underground on nuclear alert for Minuteman III nuclear missiles. I was the guy who, as an underdog, worked my way through the Air Force to command twice, to volunteer, to go to a combat tour, to go on missions to organize humanitarian missions in orphanages and refugee camps around Afghanistan, because it was the right thing to do. After I retired from the Air Force, people asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, I want to serve in some type of capacity where everybody loves you, and they said, run for political office. So I did. Once again, I was the underdog as a Sandoval County Commissioner candidate. No Republican ever won that seat. It was gerrymandered for a Democrat. There was an incumbent in there. You weren't going to win. State party's not going to help you. But hey, good luck. No name recognition, no establishment, no money. I went in there and I won, and I turned Sandoval County Republican for the first time in history. And that's important. I'm a fighter. No other candidate has the leadership in the military, private industry, elected office, and never lost an election. We have to stop running the same candidates for office and losing. We can't have that. We need fighters. This is why President Trump asked me, no one else on this stage, to meet him at Air Force One when he landed here in Albuquerque in September 2019, because he knows I'm a fighter. And I was damn proud to greet him to my home state of New Mexico. And I'm going to be damn proud to be your governor, to be fighting for you every day up in the roundhouse on the 4th floor. God bless you.
Thank you so much. So I'm a daughter of a roughneck turned preacher. So the first 5 years of my life was on the pipeline. My dad was an electrical engineer. He became a preacher, and that brought us to New Mexico, Truth or Consequences, New Mexico in 1981. So I've lived here since 5th grade. Went to college at Oral Roberts University, met my husband. We got married. We have 2 children. Aaron and I are married 39 years this year. Our children are 26 and 28. Thank you. I call that a win. And that's against the odds. Our children have graduated. They married believers. They both own businesses. They both own properties. And they vote conservative. I call that a win. If you guys have seen those shirts that say, I'm just a mom trying not to raise a liberal child, call it a win. In 1999, after visiting my parents, I was 26 years old, we moved back to TRC to open up a faith-based nonprofit. We started with childcare. 20 years later, it is early childhood, it's home visiting, it's pre-K, early pre-K, a K-12 private Christian school, after-school programs in all of the schools throughout my district. We bought not one, but 2 hotels. One we converted into intern housing so we could bring in qualified people to serve our community. One we converted to transitional housing for post-incarceration, so families can be reunited in a healthy way and people can stay clean. Converted a burned out church to a behavioral health clinic that's serving my community today. And that is executive experience. And then when there was a vacancy and my predecessor stepped away, she'd been there for 18 years, I decided to run for office. Even though the leaders in the GOP came and said, you're not the right candidate, Rebecca, you're from Truth or Consequences. We don't elect representatives from Truth or Consequences. Because my district includes Silver City, home of Howie Morales, home of Stefani Garcia Richardson. It is a very, very Democratic stronghold, and the majority of the votes come from Silver City, not from Truth or Consequences. But we prayed about it. We were obedient, I ran, and we won. And now I'm in my 3rd term. And as a 3rd term representative, I've been recruiting candidates. And my job was recruit candidates in southern New Mexico. My treasurer became a candidate. She flipped a Democrat seat, been Democrat for over 4 decades. My friend became a candidate, he flipped a House seat. So the pickups were in my district because we have figured out how to partner with conservatives in our state, regardless of their party, join our efforts, get out to vote, and turn our district red. I've served my community for 20 years. I've served in the House for 6 years. I'm ready to serve as the governor of New Mexico for 8 years. MLG must be a 1-term governor. So I stand before you today as a conservative Republican who won my 3rd term by 56 points, with a Libertarian getting 4 points in a district that is Democrat and it's majority minority. And as I travel across the state, what I care about is what the folks who we need to join us in our effort care about. It's our families, it's a better future, it's parity with what we see happening in Texas, it's parity with what we see happening in Arizona. It's the opportunity for us to pass on the American dream to our children and for our families to thrive. I'm electable and I ask for your vote.
Don't we have some amazing candidates? It's really heartening. There's no airspace between us on any of these issues, is there? Just, you go down the list. So I'll do the quick background thing. I was raised in Albuquerque, Bernalillo County. Do you think we need to carry Bernalillo County? You might want to have somebody from Bernalillo County. Valley High School, by the way. Yeah, go Vikings. From Valley to West Point. West Point, I served on active duty for 6 years. The Army was kind to me. They paid for my master's degree in business from Boston University. I came back here, started managing money, but the Army said, Zanetti, you owe us some time for that degree. Stay in the Guard or Reserves 2-4 years, I forget, we'll call it square. I loved the National Guard. There was just something about the citizen soldier thing, being called up when your neighbors needed you. It fit me. So during the week, I built a business. By the way, I didn't shut my business down either. I had employees, met payroll, and on the weekends, I put on a uniform. So I built a business. I was on KOB Radio forever, KOB TV with Monica Armentis, Steve Stucker. By the way, my positives in Bernalillo County, 4-1 over my negatives. That's good, especially if we need to carry Bernalillo County. By 2005, I was General Zanetti, and we got deployed to Guantanamo Bay. My claim to fame, Deputy Commander Gitmo. And then commander, because the commander got ill, so I took over. There at Gitmo, I can't tell you how much I learned about big bureaucracy, the Pentagon, politicians, CNN, MSNBC, the Miami Herald. For a boy from New Mexico, it was an eye-opener. If you believe we should have a governor who understands big, sprawling bureaucracies, and by the way, Gitmo is a joint task force, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guard, and I can't tell you how many contractors and civilians. If you think that might be valuable in the governor's chair, and that is executive experience at the highest levels, I would ask you to consider the Zanetti for Governor campaign. When I came back, I didn't have a job. I had to sell my business. Fine. I raised my right hand voluntarily. I went up to Seattle. I managed money for billionaires. One of them is a really bad guy. But did I learn a lot about money? And I mean money at the highest levels. If you believe we are going to have financial issues in this state, and you think the governor should understand money at that level, I would ask you to consider the Zanetti for Governor campaign. We're heading towards serious times. I think all of us feel it. The experience I have in finance, public safety, borders, it's really just about skill sets. They all have skill sets. So do I. That's really your judgment tonight. Who has the skill sets for not right this minute, but 6 months from now? I believe it's Zanetti for Governor. Please join the team. God bless you all. Thanks.
I want to thank you guys for coming tonight. In all seriousness, one of these people that are up here is going to end up running against Lujan. And I wanted you all to see that. Rebecca's like, stop standing in front of me. I wanted you guys to see them and get and also say one of these people is going to be going against Lujan. And there's nothing more important to me. Nothing more important to me than Lujan being a one-term governor. She has got, yes, thank you. That deserves a standing ovation.